Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Believe You Are a Good Mom. I have Brooke Oniki with me, and I've told her like multiple times I'm having a day. Okay. So welcome to my day, people. Like everyone always tells me, I love how real you are. So there will be tears today. And you can already tell I've been crying because my nose is all stuffy. Anyway, Brooke's awesome. And when we were talking about what we were going to talk about, she got me crying all over again. Anyway, so here we go. Okay. Brooke, introduce yourself.
I am Brooke Oniki. I always tell the kids in primary it's O and then your knee and then a key in the door because
Nice.
people have a hard time with it. They're like, on a key? Oh, Nike. Anyway, it's Oniki. I'm a life coach. I coach women who are transitioning between having kids at home to having adult kids. But I have a lot of other clients that aren't in that particular situation.
Yeah.
But that's what I coach to. That's what I teach. That's, if you were to follow me on Facebook or anything like that, those are the kind of things that I talk about.
Yeah.
It's
Or
a
your
hard
upcoming
transition.
podcast, which is coming.
Yes.
It's coming. You're ready.
Yes, it is
I can tell.
coming. I'm excited about that.
Okay,
I
tell us
have
about your
4 kids of
family.
my
Oh,
own.
yeah. Uh-huh.
I have 3 kids in at BYU. I have a son in law school. He'll graduate in May. He's married and has a little baby. She's the cutest child ever to live. We really like
You
her.
got to follow Brooke on Facebook so you can see.
Yeah, she's very cute. So a son and then 3 daughters and a husband and
A dog in the background.
a dog who seems to want to go out. So I'll probably
Oh.
let him out here in a second.
And you can see the video on Spotify. Go ahead. You can let
Oh,
him out
yeah.
while I talk about how I have no makeup on. So make sure you come check it out.
There you go, Max.
Sometimes I get ready for these, and sometimes I don't. I'm even in my Cobra Kai shirt. This is kicking it mode, people. All right. So Brooke had a baby every 2 years, right? For
Right. I got
8
married when I
years
was
or something.
29. So I had a baby
Oh,
when I was 30, 32, 34, and 36.
nice. Yeah, that's what I did kind of. I was 31 and we wanted to have a big family, so we just got busy to get done before I was 40. That was the idea. And I did.
Uh-huh.
I had my last one a couple months before I turned 40, which was this year, like the baby's one. So anyway, but that was a while ago for you. And
Yeah.
so I wanted you to tell us young moms, well, I'm not young, moms of young kids that it's okay. Tell us all the things we need to hear from your wisdom of going through it and looking at it in the rear view mirror.
I think I remember I had really bad postpartum depression with my first son, and I had just quit my job. I was 30. We had moved. I didn't really know anyone in the neighborhood. It was hard for me to take a shower. I
Uh-huh.
remember telling my husband, just go to work. I was just sobbing and telling him, just go to work. I promise not to hurt the baby, which I'm
Uh-huh.
sure was really reassuring to him.
Extra
Like
scary. Yeah.
that was even something. Oh,
He was
was
like, oh,
that
I wasn't even thinking
possible?
you would. Yeah.
Anyway, it was just a rough go for
Mm.
me. And I thought, wait, I'm 30 years old. I should be able to do this. And it's what I had always wanted to do,
Yeah.
right? I always, through my 20s when I wasn't getting married, and I was just like, oh, this isn't what I thought my life would be like. And
Yeah.
then when I actually got to have a baby and he couldn't smile at me or make eye contact, or I just thought, well, maybe I've made a mistake, you know. Anyway, it was really challenging for me. It got better when my hormones were more
Yeah.
in alignment, and then we had our daughters. But now when I see people like in Costco or at some event and people are there with their little kids and they're all dressed and their hair is combed
Yeah.
and their coats are zipped up, I'm
You're
just
not
like,
seeing my family.
you are amazing. You're amazing that you got out of your house, that you got out the door, right? That you're getting your kids to school, even if it's not on time. Like you're getting them there and you're making it happen. And I think that people don't give themselves credit. I have walked up to several women in Costco and just said to them, when they got their cart full of kids, like, do you look in the mirror every morning? and say like, I am a rock star. Like, I just don't think I appreciated how hard it was until it was over. And then I look back and go, that is so much work, getting everyone bathed and in their car seats and trying to convince them like, this is going to be fun. And we're going to really like this. And everyone's having their own emotions and their own experience in the car. Right. And we're just trying to navigate all of that and try to, it is challenging work. And I think we're always looking for the ways that we're falling short and not seeing like, look at all of the effort that you made today and how like when we look back at our home videos, we spent most of the time, it appears, dancing in the living room.
Yeah.
It's all we did was plays and
Uh-huh.
everyone was in their costumes and we danced some more and we, there's just a lot of time
I know, I
doing
was
all of
joking
this.
about that the other day because the kids were fighting over who was going to put the star on the tree. And so they had a huge chunk of time fighting, like arguing. I missed it because I was in the bathroom. Thank goodness. It was actually at grandma's house, her tree. And they were fighting over who was going to put the star on the tree. And so dad was trying to organize it. Like everybody gets a turn. We'll put it on and take it off. But then they were arguing about the order of who was going to get. And I come down at the tail end of this fight and I was like, enough. Like, I'm going to take a time lapse video of this happening and it's going to be fun. Okay. And this is the order and just do it. Okay. And so I take this time lapse and then we watched it over and over and over because it was so fun. It was so cute. And I was like, the documented stuff makes it look like our life is so awesome. But we know if we remember the fight that happened beforehand, which I don't have to remember it because I missed it. And I came down and put the kibosh on it. I'm like, enough of this. So, anyway, yeah, it's funny what we document. And then I'll literally say to them, like, stop arguing. I'm hitting record, and it's like, we just don't even want to, my computer's about to die. Sorry. Gotta find my cord. We don't want to, it's like social media. I always say it's like a Christmas card every day, we only post like the pretty stuff on there, but it's like, if we believe that, we're looking at other people's pretty posts and we're comparing our, between hitting record times,
Right.
then we compare and despair, right? But when we remember, hello, everyone is having this experience. I like to drive to school and look at the other moms in all the other cars and see how frazzled they look. Because I just want validation that like I'm not the only one that had a really hard time, like you just said, getting the kids in the car. And I just want to, I just need to congratulate myself instead of being like, you guys had a hard time too, right? But I was just talking to my friend about this morning. She's like, please do air your dirty laundry because where else are you going to talk about it? Like, we're going through it too. We don't know that there's other people doing it. We all just put on a happy face and pretend like everything's fine. Then we think we're the only one that's struggling.
Right. And then when we add the extra weight of like, I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, or I'm falling short here, it's like, I'm already down. Let's put a 100-pound weight on top of me.
Exactly.
As well. Right. Which I think that is the optional part.
Yes.
Like, it is demanding. It's physically demanding. And so am I going to make it more demanding by like berating myself and not appreciating like the effort that I'm making? And so I think that if I were to like give some advice to my younger self, it would be to like, how can I be a friend to myself no matter what's going on here?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and also believe that Heavenly Father, he really knows. He knows that it's hard and he appreciates what you're doing. So I just think we need to just remember, like, it's really important stuff, right? Like I always tell people, if you do it wrong, they'll never recover, right? People have therapy for years because of their early childhood trauma. And if you do it right, they won't remember anything. Right? Because nothing was traumatic, right? So when we're doing it right, like they just go along merrily and everything, right? And you're like, wait, I want him to remember, like, this was hard, and I, right? But
Interesting.
you hear that when people have had a lot of trauma in their lives, right? Even though they were little, they maybe don't understand why all of that happened. But when we're trying to make it a happy life for them, they just go along, and then they graduate from high school and they say, thanks, Mom, nice childhood. And you're like, oh, wait, he's gonna leave now?
Yeah.
Right? Like when my oldest son left, I was just like, well, wait, I just gave all this blood, sweat, and tears, and you just are like, hey, thanks. And then I realized, oh, that's what I did to my mom. I was just like, thanks. I mean, I've seen her since then, but do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? You just kind of walk out the door. And my mom would always say, that's what you want him to do. That's
Right.
what you, and you do want him to do that. But there's a part of you that feels like you want them to love you the same way you loved them. And they're not really capable of doing that.
Yeah.
Because they aren't in that stage of their life, right? They haven't sacrificed and loved for you the way you have for them, right? They
Yeah.
will love forward. They will love
Yeah.
their children like you loved them,
Yeah.
but they can't really do that for you. And so you have to figure out, like, how am I going to love myself and take care of myself and understand and know what my needs are and meet my own needs, so that I'm not constantly relying on my adult child to reassure me and validate me and come visit me. And right, like, I've got to
Yeah.
create the life that I want, so that when I'm with them, we can just enjoy one another and the things we're learning and the things that we're doing, right? And I'm not like dependent on them to feel my worth.
Yeah. So good. That's
But some
so good.
women, they're so attached to their kids that even when their kids leave, then they're like, oh, well, hurry and have some grandkids so I can attach to them or whatever. And I just don't think that's a healthy way of living. Like, we want our kids to grow up and live their lives and learn and grow. And we need to keep doing that for ourselves and not sort of project those needs onto our kids.
Yeah. Because it's really tricky to figure out what our needs are. Like ever since I became a mom, they're like, well, fill your own cup, put your oxygen mask on. And I'm like, how do I do that? And it's easier to just be like, nope, I'm going to find complete fulfillment out of reading them books and doing all the things for them and not even worrying about like my own needs, because their needs are
Right.
pressing. Their needs are
We
like a
don't
fire
even
that needs to
know.
be put out, and ours can go on the back burner.
Yeah.
And
I
so
mean,
this is such a good perspective to have now. Like you're like, I don't know. I coach people that are in a different phase of life. I'm like, yeah, I know. And we need to get this perspective now, because it's too late for the people you're coaching. Like they've already had these years, but these are our years that having your wisdom and perspective of later can help us later. Like
yeah.
you
Yeah,
looking at your past self is helping me look at my future self.
right.
And
I think it's interesting. Like, I wanted to be invested in my kids, and they all did different things, right? So we were into basketball, and then we were into cheer, and then pole vaulting, and then someone did a little bit of theater, and then we had a tennis player, right? And so when people would ask me, well, what do you do? I'm like, I go to track
yeah,
meets. I
yeah,
go to piano lessons, and I spent a lot of time doing those kinds of things. In fact, I remember my son saying, thanks for driving me around all the time. And
exactly.
I said to him, well, I've lived my life, and now I'm helping you live yours. And
Interesting.
I don't feel that way now. But at the time, it kind of felt like my job is to just help you live your lives. And I don't regret like investing in what they were doing, but I would say that I had to take some time. Once I got down to one child, that's when I was like, okay, now I got to figure out, what do I care about? I've been caring about so many other people's things for so long that I don't really know what I like to
And
eat or where I like to go or what I'd want my hobbies to be. Right. So I guess that would be something that I would consider also, like, really believing that what my opinion, like that my opinion matters, that my ideas are worth sharing, that it's okay to tell the truth that I don't want to go to that movie.
yeah.
And you guys could go, but I don't think that I want to. Right. Or decide I want to because I want to be with you, but I'm not. Right. But usually it was more like, oh, anything is fine.
Yeah, so
I
I'm
mean,
so fascinated by this. I literally was saying this earlier to my friend. I'm like, did the moms of the previous generation feel the resentment we feel? Or what were they thinking that they didn't have a problem with this? And so what were you thinking? Did you feel resentment, or you were fine with doing
Well, one
whatever
reason
anybody
I
else
think I
wanted to do?
didn't feel resentment was I didn't get married till I didn't have a baby till I was 30. So all my 20s, I got to do everything I wanted to do. I had
Yeah.
so much fun,
Yeah.
and I got to have a career, and I got to travel, and I got to do the things that I wanted to do. And I really wanted to be a mother.
Yeah.
And so when I had a baby, like I was really excited about it. And we would pray in family prayer every day. Like, we're so thankful to be a family. And our kids would pray that. Like, my husband was 34. I mean, it
Yeah.
just didn't come quickly to us in the church culture
Yeah.
anyway. I know it doesn't
Well,
seem
me
that old.
too. You've got my same story, but I'm still thinking resentful thoughts. So then I
So
beat
I
myself
just
up
didn't
about that.
really
I'm like, why
resent
am
it.
I not grateful? Why isn't this enough? You know?
Right. I really did like it a lot.
Yeah.
I um
And I
eh,
do too. And, you know,
right.
like I love it.
And
And like, for instance, my sister is like she had a whole bunch of babies and she didn't have to wait that decade to do it. You know, she was doing it in like the time that we all thought we would be, you know?
uh-huh.
And she's never had a problem with this as far as I know. Like the conversations I've had with her, she's like, yeah, I'll do that later. Like she knows that there's life after kids, you know? And so it's kind of like you said, you're like, I already lived my life. And she's like, well, I'm going to have a life after they're all out of like they're all in school or they're all out of the house or whatever. So she had plans of like going back to school and getting other degrees and doing things with her life, but she was fine like waiting till later. And you were fine because you did it before. And for some reason, I just feel, well, I full on like feel inspired and called, and that's why I'm doing it. Because it doesn't make any sense. Like in my brain, I'm like, yeah, I lived that life and I'll have a life later. Why do I have to do it like now? Like I want to be fulfilled by just doing what everybody else wants to do. Why do I have to have my own ones, you know?
So what's the answer to that?
I just give up my agency to God. I'm like, well, he told me to, so that's why.
Right.
and I know I have agency in it. Like I'm choosing to do it, but like it's just I think it's just paying attention. Like cuz it's like you didn't even think to pay attention to your own opinions, right? Is that what you're
Right.
telling me?
Well, or I just
Or your
decided
own
like
wants or
what they're doing is what I want to do.
yeah.
But then there came a time where I was like, wait a second. So when my oldest son graduated from high school, I was just like, this is not going to work out well. Right. They're all going to leave. And I've really invested the last 20 years in them. And I, I want to have a life that I feel like I'm giving value that's not tied up in needing them to be right by me. Right. Like,
Yeah.
they had needed me because I lived with them, right? And I was, and certainly they became more independent as they aged and things like that. But I was still pretty invested in what they were doing and running the concession stand at the basketball game. And
Mhm.
right, I was like one of the moms that wasn't working, and so it seemed like I did a lot of things, like make her be in scouts because she doesn't have a job or whatever. Like I did a lot of those kinds of things. But as
Mhm.
they started leaving, then I started seeing like I got to figure out what I like and what my gifts are that I can share with the world. And so that's when I started deciding, nope, I don't want to be a school teacher again. Oh, I really like coaching. Oh, I think and so then I just decided it pretty quickly, like learned about life coaching, looked into it. Within 2 months, I had
Oh
gotten
wow.
myself a loan. I had registered and started, and I mean, I just decided this is what I want to do. And the 3.5 years that it's been since I started, like I feel like my personality and my way of viewing the world has changed dramatically. Like
Mhm.
it is super fun. My kids are like, this is so fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
They just
Yeah.
have really,
Because the
and
kids
they,
don't like it. The kids don't want to be your whole world. They want you to have
no,
your own life. Yeah.
right.
And they don't know that now because my kids are little. They want me to be themselves to be my whole life. And so it's a little bit different for me. But I think I just think about it because I've just been hanging out with you guys for so long. Like people in a different phase of life, you know?
But
And
like I have a cousin who she's my age, and when she had her kids, they just decided, okay, all of the kids get to be in one extracurricular activity, and dad gets to be in one, and mom gets to be in one.
That's
right?
So
like, because that was super important to her to still be growing and learning. She got her master's degree while she was having her little kids, and she worked and she wrote a book, and she just didn't ever stop. And so I think for some of us, there's a yearning that's super deep and we feel called to do things. And I think it's really important not to ignore those things. And I personally, I don't feel like I felt called to stop doing what I was doing at that time. But then as I had a lot of heavy church callings and things like that. Like it just seemed like my bucket was being filled in other ways. And so
it's like as long as it is, you know, like that's what we need to check in. There's no right or wrong way to do life. It's just figuring out like, is this actually working for me, for who I am?
Right. But when I think of things like being, having my kids gone and just like working in the temple one day a week or something like that, just it's not cutting it for me. Like I want to do that, but that's not going to be the only thing that I do or right. And so I just think everybody has a different sort of set of skills and desires and interests, and also like failure tolerance level, right? Like I'm interested in sort of pushing the envelope, and I feel like life coaching has changed my life so much. And so I love helping it change other people. And so when I work with women who've struggled with their relationships with their adult kids, like some of them come to me just a bundle of nerves. Like I feel like I walk on eggshells and I'm offending people, and this son's mad at this one, and they're just in knots. And when I can help them really tune into like, what do you think? Like, how do you want to feel? How do you want to behave in this situation? How do you want to interact? Like when they start really tuning into themselves, it is just life-changing for them. You know, I had one client recently say to me, her son and daughter-in-law were living with them for 6 weeks before they went to move into their new house. And she said in the past that has been hard. Like they've lived with them a few other times. And and so she's been coaching with me, and things were changing. And she overheard her son talking to a friend, and he said, "Ooh, you've been with your mom for 6 weeks. How has it been?" And he said, "It has been great. It's been so great." And she just came to me and she just said, it's just changing things when she didn't have to control them to feel better or control their marriages, because she thought maybe like the daughter-in-law is not treating my son well enough. And, you know, just all the things that people do because they think if everyone's happy, then I can be happy, when they just learn to start with themselves. And so I guess when my kids were growing up, I was pretty happy. And so I could have really used some coaching probably in my marriage. That would have helped. But my motherhood was pretty good for me. I mean, you know, there were times that I felt lack. But overall, I think because I had really nice kids. And that helps. Right? Some people get really hard kids. And that would be hard for anyone. And so I hate it when people think like, well, you know, if I were better at it. I'm like, no, there's no one who could raise this kid easily. Don't be telling yourself that it's something, right? Like when you meet kids in your neighborhood or whatever, or when I was a school teacher, they're like, oh, I'm glad I'm only their school teacher, because some of them their moms have to be with them for all these years, and they are hard. Right. And so I think when people beat themselves up about having a difficult child, like,
or blaming themselves for that their kids are that way, it's like they just come how they come.
They do.
And I'm sure we have some influence on them, whether hold on just a second. Whether nature or nurture, like there is influence there, but not as much as we take credit for or
Yeah.
blame ourselves for. So anyway, well, this has been super fun, Brooke. Thanks for sharing your wisdom
You're
with us.
great, Emily. It's really fun to talk to you.
So tell everybody where you are on Facebook, because you have really good Facebook posts that are very.
You can find me
very
at Brooke Oniki
active.
Life Coaching. And then also just Brooke Web Oniki is my private page, and I
Is that
post
the one I
everything there
see?
as well. Brooke Oniki Coaching on Instagram, and I post things there. My website is brookeoniki.com. So it's BROOKEONIKI.com.
We'll put all those links in the show notes so people can find you and coach with you.
Great.
And because I was telling her, I don't know who's listening to this. So I don't know if I'm even talking to people with young kids, which is who I'm trying to talk to, but they could have older kids, who knows? So if you want to talk to someone who's.
Well, yeah. And a lot of people will come to me as their kids start to leave home, and they're like, I just don't know what to do now. Like, I have invested everything in my kids, and I want to have a life that feels meaningful, and I want to not resent the person they're marrying, because that happens a lot, right? You're going to take my boy away, or they're going to love your family more than our family, right? There's a lot of scarcity around that. And so helping people feel more abundant and like that there's just enough love to go around, and you can just be yourselves and enjoy every stage, right? There's some magical things. And I've heard you say this on other podcasts. I wish they could be like teenagers for half the week and little kid, right? Because it's true.
Enjoy
the
every
grind
phase
of
for
each
a minute.
stage is hard, right? The little kid stage is so intense, and all the bathing and the car seats and the feeding and all of that. And then you get later, and then there's so much running around. You wish you could stay at home like you did before. And then they
all
go
of a sudden
away.
you're all alone.
Right. And then there's
all
that,
I wanted was alone time, and now all I have is alone time.
Yeah. And so then it's creating like new traditions. Like one of the traditions we've created since our kids grew up is we do Christmas bingo. And so I buy a bunch of presents, wrap them up, and then when they get bingo, they get to pick one, and then it sort of turns into a white elephant, and you can steal from someone or pick another one. And that has been really fun, and they really like it. And so I think that's also interesting. Like we can change traditions instead of thinking like it's not like when they were little. Like that's okay. Like we're just in a different stage now. What are some things that meet the needs of our family now? And creating new fun things that meet the needs of your growing family and evolving family. And
it's just fun to hear you talk about the phase of life that we worry about now. We're like, I literally have a friend who talks about that thing you just said about the because she has all sons, and so she just has it in her brain that like culturally they'll spend more time with the in-laws because they gravitate towards the wife's family. And I'm like, well, I'm evidence right here that that's not true. We spend all our time with my husband's family. We hardly ever see my family. And it's like, so you can make the future whatever you want it to be. But she's so worried about it now that we know how the model works that it's like she's going to create that accidentally, being so stressed about it now. And so even though we're not living that reality, we're sowing the seeds of our futures now, and to like get deliberate about that, and which is what she's doing. Like she's realizing that she's worried about that, and so she's trying to like make her relationship so like fun that they'll want to hang out with her forever, or so however she wants it to be anyway.
I mean, I think so. When my son got married, he married a beautiful, fantastic, wonderful girl, and she's got a great family, and they are foodies. Like, so my daughter-in-law has a very successful food blog. And anyway, so I was concerned, like, oh, they're going to want to be with them all the time. Like they're fancy and
you're like,
cool.
Our food's not as good. And the boys just follow the food.
But when I felt like that, then I got more anxious, and then I was less excited to have them come, because I felt like, oh, we got to make it better and greater and funner. than before. And so then it was like I didn't even actually want him to come as much because it felt like too much pressure.
Uh-huh.
And so I just really had to coach myself on it and just go like, there really is enough love to go around, and we'll
Yeah.
just be ourselves,
Yeah.
and they can have fun with us, and then they can go and have fun with them. And
Yeah.
that's good too, right? I want my son to have two sets of parents who love and support him. And I want my grandchildren to have two sets of grandparents that can love and support them. Like,
Yeah.
why can't we all make worthwhile contributions? Why do I need them to not be great in order for me to feel okay? Right? Like, why
Yeah.
can't we just all
Yeah.
be? And then I was able to like tap into all of her goodness, right? Like teach us how to make these things
Oh,
and
fun.
help
Yeah.
us, right? And so I feel like we become healthier because of her contributions in teaching us how to eat yummy, healthy things. And so anyway, it's just interesting how we kind of cut ourselves off from the blessings that can come to us when we're sort of abundant in our ways of thinking, instead of
Yeah.
like, oh, afraid and fearful and worried and anxious. And right, then we get needy, and then our kids don't want to be around us.
Yeah. And it's just, it all always comes down to relationship with self, right? Like
Yeah.
if, like it sounds like you were kind of doing a little like compare and despair, like which, because you were comparing to her, you were saying there's something wrong with you, but there's nothing wrong with you. And when you were more yourself, then whether they want to hang out with you or not, like maybe they do like the food better, but you like hanging out with you. So it doesn't matter whether they're there or not.
Right. And
It's a
we can have fun when
party.
you're here, and we can have fun when you're gone,
Yeah. And
because
it's a
we're
party
fun
either way.
people. Right.
Yeah.
And so we
Yeah.
can just have fun, and we'll enjoy you when you come, and we'll enjoy things when you're not here. And it's great either
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. That's so fun. Well, I love it. I had a couple notes of things I wanted to dig into more, but it's fine.
Okay.
We'll save it for another time. But thank you so much for coming on. This is super fun. And
Is there
everybody.
something you want to, you,
Well,
I
no, it was just do you ever use Marco Polo? Like the
uh-huh,
app on the phone? My
uh-huh.
friends all make fun of me because I say, okay, I'm gonna hit stop now, but they can see on the little line that it's not ending. So this podcast is like that because that's my MO. It's like, okay, let's wrap up. Nope, we're gonna keep talking. Okay, let's wrap it. You know, you can see it's not ending anytime soon. No, I just wanted to emphasize the part where when your kids were growing up, it was like you gave yourself permission to spend time and money on them. But like, what about you? Like, where's the permission that you can have interests too? You can like, you know, if it's just like, I just remember my mom, like her whole life was doing laundry and driving people places, you know? And because I didn't want to do that, I've like swung way the other way. And my daughter wanted to do gymnastics so bad and I wasn't signing her up that she did a little Google search. Like she's 5 years old being like, gymnastics, you know, like she's trying to find her and she's like, it's 5 minutes away. It's like, like, okay, fine, you guys can have interest too. You know, it's like, so there's balance, right? Always and all the things, but it's like, I just want to give everyone permission to have their own desires and to go after them and to spend time and money on yourself. It's okay, especially now at Christmas time. This will probably come out still at Christmas time. It's like, it's okay to want things and to spend money on yourself and to get what you want. And to like get the alone time that you need during the holidays when it's too much. Like, give yourself permission to take care of you. It's just,
Yes.
it's a lot, and it's a lot all the time, and it's even more in the holidays, and it's like you've got to take care of yourself. It's like, it's so trite, like it's just so taboo right now, almost this buzzword of self-care, but it's like, it's buzzword for a reason. Like, it's really important. So just,
Well, and it's teaching your kids
yeah,
that
you're a person and you're
you
important
also
too.
matter. You
Yeah.
know, I do remember telling my kids sometimes, like, what you said felt really mean, because I didn't think my mom had any feelings.
Yeah,
I thought you
me
could
too.
say anything to her,
Yeah, me
and
too.
that she was like made of steel,
Yeah.
because she never said anything.
Yeah.
Like, and so as a quite like far into my adulthood is when I found out some things that had really been hurtful to her, because she had
Yeah.
never said. And
I
so
know.
I tried really hard to let my kids know, like, you know, I don't think that was very fair of you to say. That felt really mean, and then we could talk about it. But I wanted them to know that I had feelings,
Yes.
and that I was a human being. And like when I made mistakes, I was pretty good at letting them know, like, I don't think I handled that very well, and I just want to apologize. If I could have done it again, this is what I would have done instead.
Yeah.
And, because I think it's important for them to know that you don't know everything,
Yeah.
and that, I haven't been a parent before, and here are some things I've learned, but here are some things I'm still learning, or I have this weakness.
Mhm.
And so I'm trying to work through it. And here are some things I'm doing to try to work at it more. So I think those are really important things for them to see. And like, I don't know, like nice makeup, or I like having a gym membership, or I like getting sweaters or coats or whatever, like that we have
Yeah.
our thing that we really like. And
Yeah.
so we always try to get those. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I needed to spend money wildly, but
Yeah.
my husband was also, he's a really great gift giver. So he ends up buying me clothes that I often like better than the clothes I buy myself. So it is nice when you're both, I don't know, he was very abundant in his like wanting me to spend money, and then that is also nice when you have someone who's like, you should do stuff, you should go,
Yeah.
and that
But when
that
you
is
don't,
nice.
like, you
But
really
when you
gotta
don't,
make
then you
sure.
have to advocate for yourself and
Yeah.
go, right, I need to do
Yeah.
that. I'm not a huge shopper though. I don't like shopping
I
very
don't
much.
either. Ugh.
So that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It literally was like recently that I said to my mom, "How come you don't get your feelings hurt when whatever, you know?" And she's like, "Oh, I do." I'm like, "You do?" I felt crushed like my whole I was like, "Whoa, she has feelings, people. People. This is an announcement, you know?"
Right.
And I'm like, "Yeah, cuz same thing. Like we could
Yeah.
say
And
anything."
I don't
And
know if
my
that was
dad would
just,
be like, "No, no, you do not talk to her like that," but she didn't. Like
yeah.
I still thought it was okay to say whatever to her. And until I asked her, and now I know it's not okay, but she's not telling me.
Yeah. And
So,
so that's my job, right? To let
yeah,
my kids know
yeah,
that I
that's
have
good.
feelings, and that
It's not
I make
okay.
mistakes,
Yeah,
and that I get hurt by things or whatever.
yeah,
And I know I can do my own thought work and try to get through it or whatever, but I can also advocate for myself, and I can also express what, you know,
yeah,
my needs are and my desires are. People aren't going to always meet them, but I
mhm,
can certainly work at meeting my own,
yeah,
and be honest. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the all the feelings, right? Like we were just laughing with a couple of my other friends the other day that she said to her kid, like, my eyes are just sweating. I'm like, are you kidding? My kids know that I cry for sure. And I'm like, and they'll be like, Mom, why are you crying? I'm like, you cry? Why can't I cry? We all cry. It's fine. You know? So
yeah, I am a
anyway,
big crier
yeah, me too.
over lots of things.
Yeah.
In fact, when I was in primary, one of my daughters came to me and said, "Mom, you've got to quit crying in there. People don't understand
Uh,
like why you're crying." She said, "When I feel like crying, I just imagine myself holding a big fish tank, and if I drop it, it's going to go all over the floor. So I just got to
wow.
keep holding on the fish tank." I'm like, "Wow,
Interesting.
you're thinking way deeply about that."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Sorry, in my world, we
My
just drop
fish
the
tank
fish
gets
tank."
filled with my tears. That's just
And
let
it
it
goes
come.
all over the floor. And if you
Yeah.
don't understand why I'm crying, I'm really sorry, but that's
I
just part of
know.
who I am.
Yeah, so my kids call it happy crying because crying is
Yeah.
associated with being sad, but crying is also associated with feeling the spirit. And
Yeah.
so they call that happy crying. I'm like, Mom, why are you crying? Because I'm feeling the spirit. Oh, okay. Happy crying? Yeah. Or like when I'm grateful, man, grateful tears.
Yeah.
Those are the biggest. And so I'm not sad. I'm happy right now. I'm just so grateful, you know? And so yeah. It's just
Yeah.
education. Yeah, the kids in primary don't know why you're crying. That's because their mom didn't explain to them about happy tears. You don't have to hold it in.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly.
Well, this is so fun. Thanks, Brooke.
Oh, it was super fun to
And
talk
oh,
to
tell
you.
everybody about your freebie that you put together for Christmas.
Oh, it's just tips for moms when their kids come home from the holidays.
So
Sometimes
good.
when people are coming home, it seems you know, like you'd be excited, but there's some anxiety with it. Like, do people get along and are they gonna have a good time? And do we plan enough fun activities? And right, we get in our minds about, I don't feel close enough to my daughter-in-law yet, or oh, you know, we just get a lot of mind drama. And so I just have 6 tips to help you enjoy your holiday more.
So good.
So it's not, you could just email me and I'll send it to you, because I
nice.
don't have it linked. It's not on my website. It's not linked there. I have another freebie there that's also really good about just relationships with your kids. So you can go there and get that right away if you want.
Okay.
But this one, if you, I don't
Email
know,
you. Yeah, that's good.
you can
Or
email
message
me.
you on Facebook or
Yeah.
Instagram or
And
something.
if you messaged me, I can just send it right into your inbox.
Yeah.
So
We're like real people that you can message and we'll reply. It's not like I remember the first time I got an
so
email.
busy, I wouldn't
I
have
know.
time.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. When I first got an email from some coach that I was like, whoa, did she send that only to me? You know, instead of like a mass email. I was like, what's happening? Yeah. Anyway.
Which is great. Yeah. Just email me and I'll send it right to your inbox. So,
Okay.
all right.
Thanks, Brooke. I promise I really am hitting stop now. Okay.
All right.
And if you want to learn more about how to believe you are a good mom, go to dropthewar.com/believe. If you have kids with type 1 diabetes, go to dropthewar.com/T1D, because I have 2 daughters with type 1 diabetes and I love helping other moms that are in the thick of that, because it's a big deal. Lots of brain drama, lots of coaching. So, okay. Till next time, people. Thanks for listening. Bye.